from the table right next to you.
Oh, yeah. Like, you definitely shouldn't be listening.
Right. You should tune it out and like give them their privacy, but you just can't because what they're saying is so, I don't know, just too universally relatable to ignore.
Totally. You just get completely pulled in.
Exactly. And that magnetic pull to just listen to strangers, well, that's exactly what we're exploring today on this deep dive. I'm your host, and I'm sitting here with our resident expert. And our mission today is to unpack this really raw, off-air transcript we got our hands on. It's between two people, Ethan and Mia.
Yeah, and it is just a profoundly intimate look at, hidden desires, the paralyzing fear of failure, and honestly, just the peace of a rainy evening.
It really is. And I think we need to set the scene right away because the ambiance of this transcript is like practically a third character in the room.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you can practically hear the rain gently hitting the window of this small cafe.
Right. And the recording light on their microphones has literally just clicked off. They just finished a pretty structured, like 40-minute recording session.
And Mia's coffee has gone completely cold because she gets distracted, which, immediately tells you something about her baseline state of being.
Yeah, she's definitely a distracted person. And Ethan, who is usually the quieter of the two, he's feeling just physically exhausted. Like he carried a lot of the conversation during the recording. So there's this palpable physical shift happening in the room.
The microphones are off, the rain is falling, and it just naturally breaks down those professional walls they had up.
Yeah. Mia even points out that the rain makes her feel like she can, quote, say things I normally wouldn't, which is just such a vulnerable thing to admit.
It really is. And
Yeah.
without an audience to perform for, she just kind of pivots from small talk to this deeply personal question. She just asks what Ethan actually wants in life.
Right. Not for the audience, just for him. But I want to push back on this dynamic for a second. Because why is it that the exact moment the recording light turns off suddenly makes people so much more honest?
Hmm. That's a great question.
I mean, if you're someone who creates content or even just like leads meetings at work, you're supposed to be an effective communicator when the light is on.
Right. Well, yeah, but it really comes down to the psychological weight of performance. When a microphone is on or when we're in a professional environment, we're just constantly filtering.
Oh, for sure.
Our brains are basically running this super complex predictive algorithm. Like, how will this sentence be received? Does this align with my personal brand? Am I going to offend anyone? It's just a state of hypervigilance.
Man, that is an exhausting way to operate. Like it's a massive cognitive load just to exist in that space.
Exactly. So when that recording light clicks off, that cognitive load just drops to zero.
Wow.
Yeah, the transition from, performing to just being creates this sudden mental vacuum. And into that vacuum, true vulnerability can finally emerge.
Makes so much sense.
And the sensory boundary of the rain outside really adds to this. It makes the world outside the cafe just kind of disappear. It shrinks their entire universe down to just that table, creating the perfect incubator for psychological safety.
I love that phrase, psychological safety. And if
What-
you're listening right now, just think about the last time you felt that sudden drop in pressure. Like maybe it's the moment you close your car door after a really long workday.
Oh, yes, the car silence.
Right. You just sit there in silence for a full minute before starting the engine. That is the exact space Ethan and Mia are occupying right now.
And once that safety is established, you start to see this stark contrast.
Yeah.
The difference between who they present themselves to be and what they actually want out of life just starts bleeding through.
Yeah, and Ethan's confession is so interesting. He says he wants to write a book, like something longer and more substantial than the scripts he usually works on.
Right, but the reality of his daily process tells a completely different story.
It really is.
He literally admits to Mia that he opens his laptop, stares at the blank page, closes it, and then just watches videos on his phone instead. Like, he
Yeah.
completely avoids the very thing he claims to want most.
Which is so relatable. And Mia observes this, and she's like, yeah, that sounds exactly like you. Because he, as she puts it, feels things deeply.
Yeah, she really sees him.
She does. And then Ethan kind of turns the question back on her.
Yeah.
And her confession is just a massive departure from her public persona.
Oh, totally. Because she is universally known as the, always busy, always confident girl.
Right. But off mic, she admits she secretly wants to retire at 30, move to a quiet seaside town, wake up without an alarm, and just grow tomatoes on a porch with a dog.
I mean, the contradiction there is just striking. Her day-to-day existence demands this relentless forward motion, but her ultimate fantasy is complete stillness.
It makes me think about the mechanics of maintaining that kind of public persona. I was thinking about this analogy. It's like wearing a really heavy, impressive winter coat indoors.
Oh, I like that.
Right. Like it looks great to everyone else, very stylish, but underneath, you're just desperately sweating and you just want to take it off.
That is a perfect analogy. Or it's like a computer running way too many background applications. On the screen, the interface looks flawless. Everything's functioning. The windows are organized.
Yeah, the cursor is moving smoothly.
Exactly. But inside, the processor's just quietly overheating, the fan is screaming, and the battery is draining at an alarming rate just to keep the display looking nice.
Hmm.
The internal hardware is essentially being destroyed to maintain the external display.
Wow. Yeah. And the psychological toll of maintaining a reputation that fundamentally contradicts your internal desires, I mean, that just leads to invisible burnout.
Absolutely. Both of them are living in total opposition to their actual dreams. You have Ethan, a writer who actively avoids writing, and Mia, this burnt-out professional dreaming of a slow, quiet life while filling literally every waking hour of her schedule.
It's wild. So if you're listening right now, take a second and inventory your own background apps. Like, how much of your daily energy is being burned simply maintaining a version of yourself that you don't even really want to be?
It's a tough question to ask yourself.
That's very tough.
Yeah?
And it brings up a glaring question in the transcript. Because writing a book or moving to a small town, these aren't impossible dreams. They are perfectly achievable things. So why are they both actively avoiding them?
Right, and Ethan actually asks Mia that. He asks why she hasn't started moving toward her quiet life. And she just admits she is terrified.
Yeah, but not of some spectacular explosive disaster.
But no, not at all. She's terrified of what she calls the quiet failure.
The quiet failure. Man, that phrase hits hard.
It really does. She describes it as the slow realization of waking up one day, realizing it wasn't enough, or that she made the wrong choice and totally wasted her time, just thinking, oh no.
The oh no moment.
Yeah. It represents the fear of arriving at the destination you've romanticized for years, only to discover it doesn't actually solve your internal dissatisfaction.
And Ethan relates to this completely. He admits this is exactly why he never starts writing.
Yeah.
He says, what if he tries his hardest and it's just terrible?
Right. Because if he never starts, he can comfortably live in the potential. He can tell himself he could have been a great writer.
Exactly. If he actually tries and it's awful, the dream dies. And Mia perfectly summarizes this. She calls it protecting the dream by never really chasing it.
It's such a tragic way to live, but so common.
But wait, I have to play devil's advocate here for a second.
Okay, let's hear it.
Because I'm looking at Ethan's behavior, right? Staring at a laptop and then watching videos on his phone. Isn't it a heartbreaking paradox that the absolute most effective way Ethan protects his dream from dying is by guaranteeing it never comes to life? I mean, is it really this deep, tragic protection of a dream? Or is he just, being lazy and using this glamorous concept of fear of failure as a convenient excuse to not do the hard work?
Okay, I see where you're going. And it is really tempting to label it as simple laziness. But neurologically and psychologically, self-sabotage is actually a highly active defense mechanism.
Really active.
Yeah. Laziness is an apathy toward the outcome. Ethan isn't apathetic at all. He's paralyzed. We are wired to avoid acute pain. And the sharp, acute pain of realizing you lack the talent to achieve your deepest desire, well, that's perceived by the ego as an existential threat.
Oh, wow. So by not writing, he's literally actively shielding his ego from an attack.
Exactly. He is choosing the dull, chronic ache of unfulfilled potential over the devastating blow of inadequacy. By scrolling on his phone, he retains total control over the narrative.
Because the dream remains pristine and perfect in his mind.
Right, because it remains entirely theoretical. He's protecting the idea of his talent from the messy, disappointing reality of execution.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So think about the unstarted projects sitting in your own life right now. The business plan you haven't drafted, the guitar gathering dust in the corner, the language you downloaded an app to learn, but literally never opened.
We all have them.
We really do. Are you truly too busy? Or are you protecting those dreams from the possibility of being mediocre?
That's the real question. And honestly, sitting in the heavy realization that you are the architect of your own paralysis is deeply uncomfortable.
Oh, for sure.
Human beings rarely sit in that level of psychological discomfort for long without seeking an escape valve.
And the brain looks for a way to release the pressure, which leads us to the most charming part of this whole transcript.
Yeah.
Ethan releases the tension through humor.
Yes. The cactus incident.
The cactus incident. He starts teasing Mia about her seaside gardening dream, and he points out a rather significant flaw in her plan. She has absolutely zero experience growing vegetables. In fact, she famously killed a very sensitive cactus.
Which is so funny because a cactus is biologically engineered to survive neglect.
Right, and Mia defends herself in the funniest way. She claims she didn't neglect it. She says she, quote, overcommitted to it.
Yeah, she says she was going through a lot that month, read that she was supposed to water it, and just watered it way too much.
And Ethan just bursts out laughing at the concept of overcommitting to a cactus. It's a hilarious mental image. But if you look at the underlying mechanism of what happened to that poor plant, it's actually really profound.
How so?
Well, Mia's real-world personality, that always busy overcommitting persona we talked about, it accidentally bled into her peaceful, slow-living gardening fantasy, and it literally drowned it.
Oh, that's such a brilliant point. The irony is just staring her in the face.
Exactly. Why do we do this? Why do we subconsciously drag our most chaotic coping mechanisms into the very spaces we designate for peace?
Well, it's because our brains are wired for familiar chaos over unfamiliar peace. We instinctively seek homeostasis, even if that baseline is incredibly stressful.
So her nervous system is just habituated to constant action.
Precisely. She's used to overfunctioning. So when she's presented with a cactus, a living thing that actually requires passive observation and stillness, she just didn't know how to engage with it. She applied the only tool she uses for everything else, which is aggressive effort.
Wow. She tried to hustle her way to a healthy succulent.
Exactly. And it's a stark warning for anyone who is romanticizing a geographic cure. Moving to a seaside town won't magically fix your burnout if you bring your toxic productivity habits with you. You'll just end up aggressively overmanaging a tomato garden.
That is so true. But what I love is Ethan's response to this, because this is what actually moves the needle in their conversation.
Yeah.
After he finishes laughing, he promises to send her YouTube videos to help her learn how to garden.
Yeah, and she calls him out, saying he always promises to send things and forgets. But he insists this time is different because, quote, the fate of your future garden depends on it.
Which is just a really sweet, tangible act of support.
It really is. They aren't just identifying their shared paralysis anymore. They are actively creating a bridge out of it.
Mm-hmm.
It takes this looming, terrifying concept of failure and reduces it to a manageable, actionable step. Watching a tutorial. Humor strips the fear of its power, and community provides the path forward.
Yeah, and as the laughter settles, the rain outside is still hitting the window. And Mia points out something profound about how we artificially complicate our existence. She notes that their dreams, a garden, a book, slow mornings, they aren't impossible.
No, not at all. They aren't trying to become astronauts.
Exactly. Yet they have spent years just circling around these highly attainable things. And Ethan astutely observed the exact reason why this happens. He says they are waiting for permission.
Waiting for the right moment, or for someone to finally hand them a document stating they are allowed to want what they want.
But I have to challenge this concept of permission for a second. Who exactly are they waiting for permission from? Like, are they waiting for their podcast listeners to say, hey, we release you from your content obligations, go grow tomatoes? Are they waiting for society at large?
Well, the truth is, the gatekeepers are almost entirely internal, even though we project them outward.
Interesting.
We live in a society that really values constant upward mobility and visible productivity. So we internalize those values. We convince ourselves that we need to hit a certain financial milestone or suffer a specific severe level of burnout before we have actually earned the right to step off the treadmill.
Wow. So we turn our own happiness into something we have to qualify for.
Exactly. We invent these invisible authorities because taking full agency over our own lives is terrifying. If you wait for permission and it doesn't work out, you can just blame whoever gave you the permission.
Yeah, I see.
But if you just decide to do it on your own, well, the responsibility is entirely yours.
Which is heavy. But then Mia realizes this, and she says the magic words. She just tells him, just decide. Because that magical moment of permission, it never arrives on its own.
And Ethan acknowledges how incredibly difficult that simple phrase is, but just by having this conversation out loud, something structural changes between them.
Yeah. Mia directly tells Ethan to write the book. She makes him a promise that if it's terrible, she will personally help him fix it. And Ethan tells Mia to just take the leap and get her garden.
They essentially become each other's permission slip.
I love that.
The fear of the quiet failure is mitigated by the promise of support. If his book is terrible, it is no longer a solitary, crushing realization in a dark room. It becomes a shared project. They're dismantling the isolation that feeds their fear.
It's beautiful. And as their conversation winds down and the rain sort of softens, Ethan admits something that I think captures the entire emotional arc of this deep dive. He tells Mia he feels better just from talking
Yeah, which is so telling.
because he hasn't written a single word yet. Nothing in his external reality has actually shifted. He's still sitting in the same cafe with the same cold coffee. But the burden is palpably lighter.
That is the function of true vulnerability. By dragging these hidden, shameful fears out of the darkness of their own heads and just putting them on the table, the fears lose their teeth.
And Ethan comes to this really beautiful realization about his own mental block. He wonders if maybe writing is really just, quote, saying things out loud on paper.
And Mia immediately affirms him. She tells him, see, you're already a writer, you just don't know it yet.
It completely demystifies this intimidating capital letter writer identity and brings it back to its absolute core.
Yeah.
Just communicating, just getting the thoughts out of your head.
It's a really profound reframing, because if you can speak your truth to a friend in a cafe, well, you have the foundational skill required to write it down.
So let's bring this back to you, the listener. Whether you're sitting on your commute or taking a walk or having your own cup of cold coffee right now. What is your version of the quiet coastal town?
What is your unwritten book?
Are you running too many background apps, burning out your processor to maintain a persona you desperately want to drop? Are you guilty of protecting your dream by ensuring it never sees the light of day?
It's time to take a hard look at where you might be circling your own highly attainable desires, waiting for a permission slip that is simply never going to arrive. Sometimes the only person authorized to sign that slip is you.
Yeah. We want to leave you with a lingering question today, something to just sit with the next time you find yourself alone with your thoughts.
Let's hear it.
If writing a book or pursuing any deeply held dream is really just saying things out loud on paper, what exactly happens to the weight of all the dreams and desires we never even allow ourselves to speak?
Oh, wow.
Do they quietly fade away? Or do we just carry that heavy, silent weight around with us forever? So, the next time you're sitting in a dimly lit coffee shop, listening to the rain hit the window, maybe it's not the conversation